I am African American and I have one son. I am a black mom.
All right, let's get it poppin'. Okay, so what is your first memory of race?
I knew about race very young because growing up, I was always the one black kid in elementary school. All my friends were white. So it was me. It wasn't a bad experience. I just knew I was black and they were white, but it didn't matter. I was a kid.
Wow, so did you just feel different?
I don't think so. I believe as I obviously have grown and know, my parents, my dad, my mom, really kind of always make me feel like I'm like the best thing since sliced bread. So
Oh,
those things kind of didn't. I had fun. I loved to play outdoors. My friends loved to play outdoors in elementary school. That's what we did. I would go over to their house. They would come over to my house. So I never had that concern of they're treating me one way as a young kid. But I did know that there was a racial difference. So that was my first experience of knowing it, but it wasn't negative.
okay, that's good. So, did you teach your child about race? If so, at what age?
Wow. I know every parent feels this way, but my son is very special. um, we've talked about racial issues. He went as a child to predominantly all black school. Nationality, that was a little bit more something I had to teach him because he was not a majority as being an African American young man or a little boy. Most of them were either Haitian or from another country, and so he kind of felt a little different because he was like, "Where am I from?" And I was
Mm,
like, "New York, America. That's your claim to fame." So it wasn't race until years later when he was more a teenager and went to another school where the school was more mixed, a lot more mixed. He actually went from all black to predominantly white school.
and how was that?
He handled it like a champ. I mean, his dearest friend, one of his closest friends, is a young white man. Young white, they're men now. But he handled it like a he really not a lot of. He's different from me. I actually have to try to show him sometimes
Mm-hmm.
racial concerns because in his mind it's
No
you,
difference.
you love who you love, you're friends with who you're friends with, and he doesn't see as many hiccups sometimes as
Mm.
I would share with him.
Mm. So you mentioned kind of like Haitians or Jamaicans, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel like, how do you feel that it's different being a black American or an African American as opposed to maybe someone who knows where they come from, so to say?
Again, very proud to be a daughter of two Southerners. My mother from Alabama, my father from Delaware. I from New York just knew that I have Southern roots and enjoyed going back to the South to visit and meet and see my family from the South. So I never felt any type of way. I do recall one time in college, um, I had a girlfriend who I went to visit her, stay with her family for a weekend or something in Mount Vernon, and her mother with a very high, very heavy Jamaican accent asked me, "What are you?" And I kind of was lost because I didn't know what to say. I was like, black Southern? And that's all I knew to say. And that was kind of one of the first times I felt like, should I be something else? I
Right.
mean, I knew I shouldn't, but it threw me off
Mm-hmm.
that someone that I just would say was black,
Right.
if I didn't know their nationality, was asking me, like, kind
Right.
of, you're not anything but that? That's kind of the
Right.
way I felt she presented. I don't think that's what she meant, but that's the way I felt.
Right. Wow. Okay, so do you have a story where you realized race deeply impacted your son?
I can't say that I really felt race has impacted him because he's many people have looked at him, and that's how I kind of gauge how you well what kind of person you've raised as a mom is how the outside people tell you about your child.
That's true.
And when I look at his core friends, even going from college, they are Asian, he's Indian, black, white. There, he just doesn't have a group of. I can't look at a group of friends and say you would see him walking with black guys, or you would see him just walking with white guys. It just never was him. He's always had various nationalities of races that he's with.
Do you feel like the way you raised him played a part, or was that just his personal outlook on life?
I would love to say I thought it was me, but I don't. I think that's part of. I think that's innate of who he is. He just sees the world differently, in a good way for me. I think I can be a little jaded sometimes because of not necessarily experiences that I may have had, because I don't know that I've had a lot of negative experiences, but I have. And he just kind of decides I'm not going to see it that way. And that's who he is. But it's always kind of been him to be around a various group of people.
Wow. So how often do you think race was talked about as he was growing up? And what were those conversations like?
I would have to say that it was more of a lesson or something happening that brought it up. It wasn't anything that I hear of many times with what's happening in today's society, where I felt like if I had a young child or something now, that I feel like I would have to put it on the agenda of, okay, you got to talk about sex, you got to talk about birds and the bees, you got to talk about. I feel like now I have to. I never did that. I didn't put it on the agenda. It became a topic if something was happening and I wanted to discuss it. But let me say this: when Roots came out the second time, the movie, Roots, you're aware of, it was major for me. The very first time it came out. When it came out 25 or whatever years later and he was a young person, I did the same thing my parents did, which is make me watch it. Now, I wanted to watch it, but I made him watch it. So that was kind of a big discussion about race and where we came from and learning history. So
How did he respond to it?
he enjoyed it. Again, just his outlook is, I see how strong coming from being a black man we are, and that's how he looked at it. Just that's why I'm as strong in my self-worth than from where I see it that I came from. But it never really was depicted about the other people, or white man, or different nationalities or different races. He just kind of took it as a movie with real history, and this is where I come from, and this is why I'm strong.
That's good. Do you think race is talked about a lot between you and your husband, because now you don't live with your son?
Right.
So basically, like in your world or y'all's world.
We are in really special times. So I was going to say in him meeting my son, but I don't know if I can necessarily use it in that nature. Now we talk about it more so because of everything that's going on, and if you can stay off your phone, which I try to, I may watch one or two things and I'm like, I can't for the rest of the day, because I can't watch another black man getting arrested for, chewing gum, or anything silly, and it just becomes annoying. But it does have me fear for him. So there's things I'll speak to him about when I see him, just to mention, or he'll say something Like, did you talk to Kyle about that? Or and recently I had saw a video of some what they calling now Karens, and wouldn't let a young man who was doing Uber Eats or DoorDash or something, not letting him in to deliver food because she was asking him who he was and where he was going to go see, even though he had the keypad and everything to go deliver the food. And my son does that on the side. And so I felt it necessary. I got to say something to him to make sure, hey, you, he said, I don't even do that. I text them or whatever the information and I leave it on their door and I keep it moving. So I don't even come. So I was like, but that made me think about, we talked about that for a little bit. We talk about a lot of some of the things that we've been seeing recently. So that's how me and my husband will talk about race. We try to, obviously, pillow talk, we talk about politics and things of that nature and what's going on in the nation. But overall, we just try to be prayerful about what God says to pray for. Our president, it doesn't matter agreement or disagreement. What he does agree on is that we're supposed to pray for them.
How do you think being a black mom may be different from being a white mom in America?
Well, there's a couple of things. I don't have a girl. I have goddaughters. So my parenting from another mom who has a girl and I have a boy is one going to be different. So that's sex. But in reference to also a white mom who has a white son, she doesn't have to warn him, which I have, of being mindful. Where you go, who you're around. Being silly one time for you can mean life or death, whereas being silly for some, he may be able to get away with it. Thank you, Lord. I haven't had to have those, police conversations or things of that nature, but I do feel like there had to be comments throughout of him being mindful that he is a young black man. He kind of didn't take it that way because, like, again, I think his nature was just, I don't see things that way. But I would mention it to him, and that's something I know a white mother is never, ever going to have to think about saying, yeah, don't be silly, don't be, whatever, but not because of the race of your skin, walking into a store or these things that we know happen, that I've had happen to me just because of who I was and should I be in that store, or why are you hanging around these people? He's had that happen because of the plethora of people that he's hung around. Kind of look at him a little differently because he's the only black kid or guy around. So that's the difference. I know a white mother's never going to have to speak about, she's never going to have to bring up the race information, ever.
Yeah. Okay, this is the last question.
Okay.
What do you think America could learn from black moms?
America could learn when a mom, all moms, and especially a black mom, just like a white mom, it's on the job training. We don't know what we're doing. Each child is different. We are raising personalities that are different, one child to another. I mean, I have one son, but we all know that it doesn't matter if you're raised in the same home with the same parents. You've got two different personalities, and you got to look at the strengths and the likes and the dislikes of each child. So it's on the job training, and just like any other parent, we have to look at our child and try to put them in the best place possible. And we all want the best for our children. And I may have to go about it differently than you because I have extra to give. You've got to be a little tougher. You've got to be a little better. You've got to work a little harder. You've got to go a little further in whatever it is you aspire to do. Because I do believe there's a difference as far as what would be handed to one person. Because of this color of their skin, it was different than what a black man may be able to achieve if they don't have something extra on top to give. They've got to have that little extra on their resume, or that little extra in their kick, or that little extra in their personality to stand out, because the automatic thought, in my opinion, isn't the best light. But you've got to prove yourself. Whereas if you are someone of white nationality, you may be given the benefit of the doubt, even if it's not the case.
Well, thank you for that. That's a wrap. Be nice in the comments, everyone. All right, thank you. Bye.